Why does Easter have a rabbit carrying eggs? Rabbits do not lay eggs, yet for more than a century they have appeared everywhere on Easter cards, postcards, decorations, and seasonal ephemera. And if you look closely at antique Easter cards, the images become even stranger. At first glance, these images feel whimsical, almost dreamlike. But behind them is a surprisingly layered history, one shaped by old European spring traditions, printing culture, religious symbolism, and one unusual figure, the Easter hare. Today I want to explore where these images came from, why they became so popular, and why they still feel familiar even now. In the late 19th century, printed greeting cards became enormously popular as color printing improved and became more affordable. Easter cards were part of that new visual culture. Families often kept them carefully in albums instead of throwing them away, which is one reason so many survive today. And when we look through them now, they reveal much more than decoration. They reveal how people once imagined spring itself. Before there was the Easter bunny, there was the Easter hare. The figure comes from German-speaking regions where traditions were already recorded as early as the 17th century. Unlike domestic rabbits, hares were wild animals closely associated with open fields and early spring landscapes. People saw them running through farmland just as winter ended and new growth returned. Because of that, they gradually became symbols of fertility, seasonal renewal, and returning life. When German immigrants later brought these customs to America, the Easter hare slowly changed. The wild hare became softer, rounder, friendlier, eventually becoming the Easter bunny we recognize today. But the egg is actually older than the rabbit in Easter symbolism. Long before Easter became a Christian holiday, eggs already carried powerful meaning in spring rituals across many cultures. An egg contains hidden life. That simple image, something silent and closed, yet full of possibility, made it a natural symbol of renewal. Later, Christianity adopted that symbolism very easily. A sealed shell opening into life became closely associated with resurrection. And because Easter arrives in spring, the connection became even stronger. Over time, eggs were dyed, painted, exchanged as gifts, and eventually transformed into decorative objects. That is why vintage Easter cards often make eggs far larger than life. The egg had already become symbolic, but in printed imagery, it also became imaginative. And this is where the question becomes especially interesting. If eggs symbolize life, why were rabbits chosen to carry them? The answer comes directly from older German custom. In those traditions, the Easter hare did not simply symbolize spring, it actively delivered eggs. Children believed the hare visited homes during Easter season and left eggs in prepared nests. Because both symbols already existed together in lived tradition, artists naturally combined them when Easter cards began to be mass-produced. Once commercial printing expanded, the combination became permanent. A rabbit beside an egg immediately communicated Easter. Even though biologically it made no sense, visually it worked perfectly. And after enough repetition, it became one of the most recognizable seasonal images in the world. What began as regional folklore slowly became global visual tradition. Not every country told exactly the same Easter story. In France, another symbol became equally important: church bells. According to French tradition, church bells fall silent between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. Children were told that during those quiet days, the bells had flown to Rome. And when they returned, they brought eggs and treats. That story explains why older French Easter cards sometimes feature bells, ribbons, and flowers rather than rabbits. The imagery feels slightly different, often softer, more floral, and more delicate. Where German cards often make the rabbit central, French cards sometimes let bells carry the meaning of Easter instead. If antique documents and ephemera interest you, you can find hundreds of vintage illustrations and journal kits in my Etsy shop. The link is in the description. The lamb is also one of the most important Easter symbols. In Christianity, the lamb represents the Lamb of God, a title given to Jesus Christ. The idea comes from symbolism in the Bible, where lambs represented innocence and sacrifice. In Easter context, the lamb became strongly linked to resurrection because Easter celebrates Christ's resurrection after sacrifice. It is a beautiful example of how the same holiday developed different visual languages across Europe. Alongside rabbits and eggs, flowers appear almost everywhere in vintage Easter cards. Spring flowers were never just decorative. Lilies became especially important because they symbolized purity and resurrection. Pussy willow branches appear often as well, especially because they bloom early and became closely associated with Easter in many European regions. And then there are the children. Children appear constantly in antique Easter imagery because they represented innocence, renewal, and hope. They often carry flowers, gather eggs, or stand quietly beside spring animals. In many cards, they seem suspended in a peaceful world where spring has just arrived. That softness was intentional. These cards were designed to feel gentle, hopeful, and full of quiet optimism. Perhaps that is why these old Easter cards still feel strangely moving today. They were made for a season that always arrives briefly, and yet the symbols endured. Even when many of the old stories are forgotten, the images remain. A chocolate bunny on a supermarket shelf still carries a distant memory of the Easter hare. A chocolate egg with a hidden surprise inside still echoes much older ideas of life concealed within a shell. A painted egg still carries one of humanity's oldest symbols of renewal. And many decorations we see today still repeat visual choices first made more than a century ago. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this small journey into the hidden world of Easter imagery, and I will see you in the next video.